Hello, everybody, and welcome to Becoming Invincible podcast. I am your host, Talia, and I am so excited to have you here. This podcast is to reframe your mindset, challenge those limiting beliefs that you may have when you're navigating all the situations in your life. And I'm here to give you tools to help you navigate them in such a healthy way and to harness your personal power that we tend to lose along the way. So settle up, get ready, grab a coffee, and get ready for some juice in each episode as I throw you what life has thrown me and we can navigate this shit together. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Okay, so today's episode is going to be more about emotions. Now, the next few episodes, I'm just mainly focusing on our emotions, how we can get better at feeling, how we can get better at regulating all those sort of things, because it's really hard for most people to really handle their emotions. It's something that comes up a lot, and I always wanted to try to help people in a way that's really relatable. I'm really excited to share this episode with you guys. So today's episode is going to be really basic, really touching on emotions and how it all connects, day-to-day stresses, things like that. Really tangible things for you guys to take away into your day as well. Generally, we paint with so many different emotions in a day. So when we think about it like this, of painting a canvas, there's generally only like a couple of emotions that is our normal baseline, I like to call it. So in a day, on general standard emotions, we have happy, sad, and then neutral, which also is known as numb, because we do live in a high cortisol life and with a lot of stresses. We ask a lot of ourselves, people ask a lot of us, society. There's so many inflicting things with this, right? Because we get pulled into so many different directions. There's so many things. In a generalized scale, we feel on a daily is happy, sad, and neutral. Now, obviously, anger can be mixed in there because that's with frustration and things like that. But that's how we then end up flowing into all the other emotions, right? So the reason why I'm not saying, but you can feel like love and joy and all those sort of things, where you can feel love but still experience sadness, if that makes sense. Crying and tears is a form of sadness, right? Even though we can happy cry. Okay. This is just in a basis of looking at emotions for what they are. We're not trying to make and mix all these emotions of like slapping all the colors on. Okay. So this is just a better analogy to really realize in our head how we our emotions in a day and how they can affect us. Okay. So generally we're painting with happy, sad, neutral, whichever one you fall into, because the reason why I say neutral also is because I have definitely experienced where you wake up, you just kind of going about your day. You're like, I don't know, I just feel numb, neutral. I don't really feel anything. Like you just sort of have those days where you can just blah, you know? Our wires sort of get crossed because this is when we can get into our heads, belief patterns are formed, things like that. So what we think in our mind becomes something that we then start to feel, and then it filters into our action/behavior. Okay, so it all starts with a thought. And with those thoughts, we can have happy thoughts and we can have negative thoughts. So positive, negative, right? Yin and yang. So we're having positive thoughts, but then also viscerally, we're having some negative. Okay, because we have roughly on average 82,000 thoughts. That's what they say. As we're having all these thoughts, a lot of them are very repetitive thoughts. And a lot of those thoughts that are repetitive are very negative. So as a default in a person, we'll go more into the negative than we will in the positive, because that's just how a lot of us are wired. It's how a lot of society is dictated through negativity. Now these days, everyone's sort of getting onto self-development a bit more and understanding how they think and feel and things like that, which is great. But it's also a detriment because a lot of us are consuming TikTok, and that's like a 30-second video. And then you're not knowing how to embody that into your day. And that's how people like me help you, because when you start to really add things into your day, you can really make it lifestyle change, right? It's sort of like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym, I just need to shred and get to this amount and then I won't work out ever again, because that is just not sustainable. You'll put the weight back on, right? So it's the same with our mindset. I love this analogy that Rochelle Fox says. She thinks of her cleansing her mind as like brushing her teeth. So it's a daily practice. It's something that you just at least doing one mindful thing a day, I find that helps with that. Obviously, the more you do, the better. But again, this is all about integration, and it's all about you can learn a lot about your mind, emotions. But even though you're just consuming a book, listening, whatever, unless if you're actually embodying that and taking that on and integrating it in your life, that you won't see a change, right? It's like anything. This is my meal plan. This is my workout plan. Unless if you actually integrate it and embody it, you're not going to lose the weight, right? Same thing. So it's about doing like a workout plan for your mind. It's just as important in your day. We're generally on like a natural scale of that baseline, happy, sad, and sometimes when we have like a thought, will provoke in our head. And sometimes that thought is triggered by something that's happened in your day. For instance, right? Like sometimes we can experience something, someone says something to you, someone acts in a certain way. It could literally be on the train and something just reminded you of a certain time. It could literally be anything. So sometimes we are triggered, which I like to say activated, because it activates something within you, right? When we think of an activation, it's like, oh my God, something's inside happening. Okay. Instead of triggered makes it sound like it's very demonized and like bad, when it's not bad. It's okay. You're feeling a sensation now in your body. You've been activated, right? Anyway, so sometimes something can activate a thought and provoke that in our mind that will then bring it to the forefront, which is our conscious, right? So when we think of our brain as such, we are thinking so many thoughts in a day, right? 82,000. Now, most of those negative over positive, okay? Unless if we do the set stuff, unless if we brush our brain, basically, like brushing our teeth, like unless if we cleanse our brain, then we'll start to see more positive over negative, right? But on a generalized scale, we're leaning more into the dark cloud than we are into the sunshine. Okay. Half of our brain is unconsciously. So, this is what this means when people talk into this stuff. So, unconscious brain, like the unconscious part of your brain when you start thinking, and it's generally negative because it's impacted by how you were like brought up as a child, between, especially, I wouldn't say just in this, because people do lose that. They go, oh yeah, but my child's older than this. It doesn't matter. So in the ages of 0 to 7, that is the primal age, like that's the primal time for a child to form belief patterns, and what they mean by belief patterns and stuff. So belief patterns is something that we create from the ages from 0 to 7 by the people that we are influenced in our life, which is our parents and our teachers and our peers. Actually, teachers and peers, like who your child hangs out with at school, is a lot more impacting than what we are as a parent. A lot of studies done on that. It's how you say something to your child. So whatever you say to your child, they will take that on as their own belief, right? So if we're screaming at them and we're talking negative to them, they will take that on like, oh my God, and they'll make it their own. You cannot predict what it's going to be, because it literally could be as simple as, I don't know, you were hiding presents in a box for their birthday, and they're about to walk in on it, and you're like, oh my God, no, stop, don't come in. That is traumatizing to a child. Being like, oh my God, why? Mummy doesn't love me. Right there, boom, pattern formed. And this is not to make you as a parent feel like shit, because it's not. It's just to be aware. But you don't get to know what they think of themselves, though. So how you talk to your child becomes their inner voice, or sometimes of how they're being influenced in the schoolyard and how their teacher speaks to them. That becomes their inner voice, which then paves the way for how they are going to become their own person, right? Obviously, we still influence them with their parents, but I'm just saying most of the time, it's actually been recorded that teachers and their peers are more influential than what parents are on their children. but obviously we still influence them because they're coming to us at home, right? That's what they mean by belief pattern. So going back into that, a belief pattern is what your child perceives in the world and however you talk to them, because they say between 0 to 7, they're like a sponge, like absolute their peak of a sponge to absorb absolutely everything. If they're around a lot more negativity with people who don't know how to regulate themselves, they will soak in a lot more negativity than they will positivity, because negativity is a lot of easier to soak up, for one, and also it's a state that's easier to live in. It's easier to live in like, poor me, my life sucks, than it is to actually go, what is this actually teaching me? How could I be better? That's a lot harder than it is to be in negative. It's easy, like misery loves company, right? That's what they say in the primal ages. So that's a belief pattern. A belief pattern is formed by whatever's said to your child, how they perceive something, and it gets created, but you don't get to know what they perceive. And it's so funny, for the littlest time, I was actually trying so hard to go, okay, I can't say anything negative because I don't want to fuck up my kids, right? And the thing that helped me is that no matter what you do, you're still going to fuck up your kid. You can't. There's nothing that will stop that. And for me, that was actually so reassuring, because I was like, oh my God, okay. Because it's so easy to then go into like a perfectionism thing, to be like, oh my God, I have to be perfect. I have to say this, blah, 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 right? And so now I live by, okay, well, I'm going to do the best that I can, making sure I regulate myself, everything like that, to help them. And now when my kids are having like a meltdown or something, I approach it with like, okay, I need to regulate myself in this moment. I don't need to flip out. That's not what's needed. In that time of need, when our child is expressing massive emotion, they actually need us to be grounded and regulated in that moment. They need to know that we're safe. And no matter what they do, kick and scream, you're going to be there holding them, right? And to show them that is actually being able to witness their tantrum and knowing that you have eyes on you, which is the most confronting thing a lot of parents face, right? Because it's that whole thing of being seen. And for me, I'm very blessed with that. In 2021, when I started being on Instagram publicly, I killed a lot of that story, and I conquered that fear as such of being seen by people. And it came back again last year, and I had people watching me. And that was very confronting again, because they don't know who I am. There's like a lot of shit that could be put on me, right? And a lot of judgment, which there was. A lot of people don't know that I know that they judge me. It's going to happen. People are judging you no matter what, right? But as long as you know who you are, it's all that matters. You can't change how someone's going to look at you, right? And that's a lot of things I've learned all that through my life. And I came from being a people pleaser, where I pleased my way to feel validated, to feel good enough to be friends with people. I was like, oh my God, people like me being the dumb blonde. Okay, I'll be her. And no matter how hard I did that, and no matter how much I catered to people's needs, people still swept me under the rug and was like, fuck you. I will be your friend when I feel like it. So that's where that kind of comes into perfectionism, when we're sort of going, okay, I have to do no wrong with talking to my child, right? But in their time of need, which is really hard, especially when they're tantruming out in public, everyone is watching you. Or some people even feel the need, which fucking baffles me, but they feel the need to come up to you and say, my children did that. Or I think you need to do this. And I'm like, I don't think I need to do anything, Janet. You need to just keep walking. So I actually don't even engage. What I've sort of started to do when my kids are going crazy pants with their emotions out in public, I hear people talking to me, but I purposely don't look at them, and I purposely stay focused on my kids, because the amount of times that I ended up like having a look and to see who the hell was talking to me, it was a lot of negative of people going, you need to do this. You're letting your kids do that. Blah, 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 blah. They shouldn't be doing this. Because there's so many different people who live a different life, come from many different generations. And there was a time where kids were seen and not heard, right? And I really feel like, because I'm a millennial, so I really feel like millennials are trying to break that. A lot of us are having kids now, and we're trying to break that stigma of kids can be seen but not heard. And that is so toxic for the world, right? Comes with so many underlying patterns. And when I grew up as well, and the reason why I say millennials is because it's like, oh my God, one, I know a lot of millennials will be listening to my podcast. Like, you attract who you attract, right? And I don't think a lot of younger people would be listening, to be honest, unless if they're into self development, right? I totally get that. It's not shaming the younger generation or anything like that. I just feel like because we were the last generation to actually be raised, seen, and not heard, and from us, it's been people trying to break that cycle, right? And then now we're having kids. We don't want that either. So obviously, everyone still parents how they parent. This is not to, I should actually do it, maybe a disclosure at the start of the episode, but it's just, this is my experience and this is how emotions, how we can regulate, how we can help. Because the more that we're actually a lot more solid and focusing on our children when they're in their utmost of all emotions, it's very activating. When you're sitting there and your child is like, I want this, no, I don't, and they're contradicting whatever, especially when they're in the toddler phase, when they're younger kids, it's very challenging because they can't quite speak to you exactly what they need. When you're met with your child screaming and you're having eyes on you, people trying to talk to you, you just have tunnel vision focusing on your child and trying to stay as regulated as possible. So I'm always like, okay, they need me to just be solid right now. And the more honestly, I found the more that I've been so solid and be like, okay, well, then what is it that you need? And I'm trying to get there, letting them have the tantrum. Sometimes there's been cases where they're so tired or they're having so many emotions that they've actually painted their canvas with like fucking so many things. It's absolutely like more than a rainbow. I just literally, all they need me to do is just sit and watch them. And it is confronting because they're having an emotion that all you want to do is help fix their problem, right? Regardless if you're a man or woman, we're not doing masculine and feminine right now. But no matter what, we want to fix them. We're like, okay, well, how can I help you for not feeling so fucking sad or angry? And when they can't speak to us and we're not getting it, they then go crazy, right? Totally fine. Us being able to sit there and just witness it is enough. But it's very activating for us because a lot of us want to go, get the fuck up off the floor or stop making such a big scene, blah, blah, like whatever it is, because a lot of us aren't comfortable with emotion. And the reason why we're activated is because we don't even feel safe to have our own emotion, right? Which is not any shame and it's not a judgment. That's reality because we have not been educated enough to control the emotion, handle our emotion or anything like that because it's always been so woo woo. But now we're coming in a time where everyone's wanting to learn about it and understand about it. So our kids are our biggest teachers in that way of how we can regulate ourselves, how we can stay solid in a moment and in time of need. It's kind of like when we get into a relationship and you're wanting your partner, like for a woman, we want our partner to be like, well, I'm not perfect all the fucking time. I'm going to fucking lose it at you because I'm fucking stressed myself. And I find that's really hard to find in people because as soon as you show emotion, people want to be like, oh, fuck, she's toxic. And it's really, I'm getting stressed. And I just need you just to be there and be like, let it out, babe. I'm going to be here for you. That's all what women want, right? That's all we want. And that misses the mark a lot because a lot of men have dealt with toxic women. A lot of women have dealt with toxic guys. So when guys feel like they're having like an emotion, we go, fuck, he's gonna like be toxic and like hit me or something. When really he has not felt safe to express himself yet. And he just needs someone to be like, you know what? Let it out, babe. I'm here for you. You go hit the bag at the gym or whatever you need to do, and I'm here. And that's all we need as people. I'm here for you and I'm not walking. Your children need the exact same thing. But a lot of the time it activates us that they're having such emotion that we don't know how to handle it, that we just blow up. But as long as you can stay grounded, they're like, okay. And it's hard. It takes time. You just got to block out the noise, right? That's how kids teach us, is through how we can stay regulated. And that's really hard. When I go back into the analogy of painting with so many colors, like I said, you can be activated by your children, your partner, by your friends, things like that, right? Or it could even be a memory will pop in, or you listen to a song and it will take you to a time, right? Anything. Sometimes when we hear something, and depending on what emotional state we're in, when we're in a neutral state, we're actually quite exposed to a lot. You're then going to be more inclined to go into a negative than you are into a positive. Okay. Because when you're neutral slash numb, we don't think we're experiencing any emotion, but you're experiencing an emotion. And you're still feeling when you're in numb. That's still a sensation. And a lot of us live in that sensation. And we're more inclined to go into the negative than we are into the positive. Because again, like I said, it does take a lot for us to really have a default into gratitude, into sunshine. We default into the cloud, right? Into the storm. When that happens, we get activated. And then sometimes a story will come forward. Partner could say something wrong and you misinterpret it. When you're in a numb state, you're more likely to actually misinterpret things than you are to actually understand them. So going back to the brain, we have unconscious and conscious mind. Okay. So when you're having a thought, it will generally be from unconscious. Sometimes when we feel activated, it's unconscious. A story will get brought through and we'll think of that negative thought. It comes to the forefront to our conscious brain. So unconscious brain is where we are thinking and we're telling ourselves things, but we are unaware of it. Like they're just there. And they are formed by, again, how we're brought up, what we listen to, just negative stuff. For us as women, we grow up, it's gone through the test of time of how we should look in a body, how we should look as a woman, how we should be doing, all those sort of things. We all have society things put on us, right? So that's what creates our unconscious thoughts, things that we've had said by partners in the past, by our parents, just by even observation as a child. So all those things are unconsciously going in our mind. We don't get to know what they are. They're just there. Okay. And consciously is what you can control. So what you allow yourself to focus on in a day. Okay. So when a story is brought forward, so when you get activated, a visceral response will happen in your body. And then sometimes it will be a thought. So the activation will be prompted from a thought or it'll be prompted by somebody. Generally, if it's prompted by someone, you're already having that same thought pattern processing and it's now connecting, is basically because from that thought pattern unconsciously that's been there. Sometimes I'll be talking to a friend. I'm like, whoa, I feel very activated right now. And it's by the topic we're talking about. It could be how they said something. It took me to a time someone said the same thing. I know this sounds real, like, oh my God, everyone's crazy. But this is literally human behavior. This is how emotions and things are formed. Like this is how it all starts. I'm not going to get into that. We're not going into the depths of self-development here, okay? I'm trying to keep it with emotions and our thought processing. So the belief pattern, the thought, it's connected, boom, and then we're having a feeling, which is a visceral response, which is the activation in our body. And we could be feeling tingles, we could be feeling warm, we could be feeling, you're not even sure what you're feeling as well. There could be so many things for us. Everyone's different. And then we start to go down the rabbit hole of Alice in Wonderland and thinking all the stories on how things could play out, how you're observing your life now. It could be this, then it could be that. Oh my God, I better do this, blah, blah, blah. You start to self-sabotage. And this is how we get into the depths of everything. And then so your canvas that you're painting with just like numb, let's say like a white or a gray, is now turning into black and it's turning into blue and it's turning into purple, but then it's turning to yellow and then it's turning into this and blah, blah, blah. And it's having so many different colors. You're painting with so many different emotions of you were starting at numb slash neutral. Now you've gone into anger and frustration. You've gone into sadness because then you started to think of something really sad. It's getting really intense for you. Then you could bring yourself back to maybe a happy thought and you're painting a little bit nicer. You're going back to like a stress state. You're thinking of stress and anxiety. All the things are creeping on you. You're painting them all on the canvas. It's all happening. So when we're in the feeling of emotions, we then start create things that aren't real. And for us as women, when we have a lot of emotions, we take our feeling as facts. So this is where memories or how things were said, we don't actually remember them correctly. And this is not to shame women. This is just normal. Like this is very normal. So any men listening will probably find clarity in this actually. And it's not to shame us women. We're very emotional. We're amazing. Men aren't so emotional, which I beg to differ. They should probably be a little bit more, but they have never felt safe to, right? So this is where we all want the same thing, regardless if you're a man or a woman. So when we're in emotion, we actually take feelings as facts, and we're not actually taking the facts for what they are. So when we go back to a memory or back to like, but you said this, we say it in a way that the man usually, or the friend or whatever, did not mean. It's how we perceived it. We've covered it with our emotion. And so we're having like a full emotion response, and we take our feelings as facts over the fact of how it was said. So he was like, I did not mean that like that at all, babe. Like, what the hell? And we're like angry and like, fuck you. And he didn't even mean that at all. And in his mind, he's like, I thought we were fine. And then you take it out on him, right? And this is where feelings become facts. And we're very known for that. It's just about understanding and how we can sort of go, okay, so what did he mean? And this is where I come back to when you're in like a partner state with this, what was their intention? Like, you always judge them on your intention. You know who your partner is. He would never want to be an asshole to you, intentionally, right? So when we come from into that sort of state, right? And then also for men as well, like this is just like a human being thing, however we decide to call ourselves as a title. And emotions are heightened, intelligence lowered. So we think of the scale. When intelligence is high, our emotions are low. We're normally in a regulated state. When our emotions are high, our intelligence is low because we're not thinking. And even for men, like they just go red. They see red when their anger hits them, and they're just like going to do whatever in that moment because they see red. Intelligence is low, right? So that's generally the scale. Like you're a man or a woman, emotions are high, intelligence is low. We don't see reason and we act in accordingly. So when we're in our emotion as women, we act accordingly to the emotion, whether we go cold shoulder, whatever it is, depending on the situation, right? Retract back, or we then go and fight and absolutely unleash our emotions on somebody, right? What we can do when we have a moment of like, okay, is this actually something I believe? Is what I'm seeing actually for real? And then also you can ask yourself, is this thought really mine? And there's like a little bit of like an activity I want you to do. So when you are feeling a lot of emotions, I want you to sort of do this process, which I thought would be really cool. Do a podcast on it. So I'll do it with you, right? Okay. So basically we're going to get comfortable. Okay. So if you're driving, maybe come back to this part in the episode, but I want you to just sit and relax. I want you just to, wherever you are, sitting, laying down. If you're driving, again, come back. Do not close your eyes. Just let yourself be in this moment. Okay. Now, this is obviously something you do when the kids are in bed and you have a moment. So, this is really good when you've had a day and you just need to relax, come back to yourself, kind of thing. It's nothing too crazy pants, but it's something and it does help. Okay. So, we close down our eyes. And we do 3 deep breaths in, okay? So we go. And again. As you're breathing out, you can do sound or really emphasize that because it really drops you into your body. So one last time. Okay. Now, I want you to tune into your body and just focus what's happening, any sensation, whatever's going on. All right. Sometimes I put my hand on my heart because it helps me connect more, but as you wish, however is comfortable. So I want you just to scan your body from your head to your toes, just really feeling what's happening. Any sensation, like some numbness, tingling, you might even feel warm, just anything in your body. Now, ask yourself, like, what emotion am I feeling right now? Again, it can be numb or neutral as well. That is still a sensation. So you're focusing on that feeling, focusing on your day, what's happened, the kids going crazy pants, picking them up from school. You had a really hard day at work. Your boss is stressing you out. You had a fight with your partner or your friend, and you're just wondering like why no one gets you. And what emotion came up for you today? Now I want you to really feel into that emotion. So I want you just to breathe in, just feeling into the anger, the frustration, the tingles, whatever sensation's going on, or actually feeling into that emotion. And as you're focusing on that emotion, I want you to give it a color. Like, what color would you give that emotion? Whatever comes to your mind straight away, just don't even think on it. And as you're giving that emotion a color, I want you to really feel into the color. So, again, just breathing however feels good for you, focusing on that color. Now, I want you to picture that color turning lighter, slowly lighter, changing that color to white. So if it's purple, it's going light purple to light to pastel to white. Focusing on how white the color you've made it. Now, wanting you to make that white light brighter, brighter, turning up the light so it's so bright. Now, I'm wanting you to picture that white, bright light, and we're pushing it out of our body. So you're seeing this bright light, this bright ball, white light, and you're just physically just taking out your body, whether it's out to the side or it's going up through your head and above your head. However it is, just picture pushing that out of your body. And when you take a big deep breath in, once it's out of your body, I want you to slowly open your eyes. Now, I want you to do that when you can. And that was a process I really rushed through. So normally I give you a lot of time and space, but again, it's a podcast episode. For the most part, that's just like a little process for you to do. And so when you're feeling a lot of emotion, when you can put a color to that emotion, sometimes even a shape to that emotion, that really helps. And then you creating it to be this bigger, 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 like white light that's absolutely disappearing, and you're just pushing it out of your body. It can really make you feel a lot better because you're somatically, like you're energetically really just like, I want this out. When you really focus and allow yourself to have the time and space to do that. And like I said, it is something you have to do when the kids are down, but that's just something that will really help you to handle emotion, reflect on your day, things like that. And that as you do more of that, it can really help you, and it can help you stay more regulated. The more you practice something, the more you embody something and integrate it into your life, it becomes essential, right? I do tapping every night. Like I've been doing tapping on the head, on the eyebrow. Yeah, been doing it. And it's been an absolute game changer. These things like really help to keep us regulated. And that is also what is part of the cleansing of the mind, right? Just like brushing your teeth. So if you can do that process, it can really help. And also, it's so funny, those of us that have had toddlers, how they switch through emotions so effortlessly. Kids are absolutely amazing for it, where they'll be absolutely frustrated and angry. And then all of a sudden they'll be completely happy and content. And the way they flick through their emotions is like effortless. It's like, whoa, 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 you know? And I think the more that we can take that on and not making our emotions mean something, right? Like a lot of us as well as adults, we have an emotion and we make it mean something. Like we hold on to that. You made me feel like this. And they didn't. They didn't mean to make you feel like that. They said something and you created the feeling because you've experienced that same emotion back in your past. It's nobody's fault, but it's only yours to own because the other person doesn't know you've lived that life. They've lived a completely different one. And that's where it comes from, where part of owning, like, okay, fuck, what is this teaching me? Because every situation in our life is actually teaching us something about ourselves. And when we really open up our mind to understand that, patience, courage, regulation, Anyway, I'll leave it there. I could have gone more into that, but I'm going to really go into a lot with the next coming episodes with emotions and stuff. I just really want to give you guys a little bit of something to help you and just to really base this off like, this is our emotions, feeling, thoughts, all the things, and just a little bit of like an opening to emotions, because I even feel like that might have been a little bit of in depth with people too, to be like, what the fuck? Subconscious, conscious, limiting beliefs, like belief patterns, 0 to 7, what the fuck? It's a lot to get people around. The more I'm really talking to people and people like, I don't understand when you say that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I feel like this episode would actually be a lot. So, which is great. Like, listen to it over and over if you need to. I do that with a lot of episodes that I listen to in other podcasts, and I listen to my own sometimes, because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I love hearing how far I've come and things like that. So just really good eye-opening to like emotions, how we can manage our own, and also just understanding like to give yourself fucking grace, because you're fucking killing it no matter what. And when you always want to do better, it's the best that you can do, honestly. And I just think that's amazing. So don't be so hard on yourself. I'll speak to you soon.